everyone. Welcome to our Wednesday night team call. This is Senior Consultant Michelle Schaefer. We are so happy to have you, and we're so glad that you took the time out this evening to join us on our call. I'm not going to take up much time. I want to go ahead and introduce our host. If you're not familiar with this gentleman, Richard is an executive consultant in our business. He has earned his way onto a 5-star trip, and he is also a businessman in his own right. He owns several Dickey's barbecue restaurants. He has a music box company. He also sold a graphic design company several years ago for, I believe, several $1 million. So he is very well versed in business. He's also extraordinarily creative. He has brought us the 3x4 and the Purge Call on Sunday. And without further ado, I would like to introduce my dear friend and mentor, Mr. Richard Laidler. Richard, are you there?
You know I'm here. You can just feel it because the phone's just a little bit warmer, right?
Whatever you say.
All right, well, here we are, 9 o'clock. Hello, you all, you lovely chaps. How are you? I've just had a cup of coffee, so I'm a little overexcited. Actually, I haven't had a cup of coffee. I'm just excited anyway. Guys, welcome to the call. Thank you for taking the time out to come join us. And also, as always, reach over and give yourself a pat on the back for taking the time out to learn a little bit more, get a little bit more information. And actually tonight, not learn a little bit more, but actually learn probably some of the most important stuff you'll learn in your ambit business, because we have a special guest on today who he's pretty much the golden child in the DFW area. He's a good friend of mine, but also has some wonderful things to share with us tonight. But I just wanted to quickly let everybody know the purpose of these calls that we do. There's lots and lots of different calls around the Metroplex, in fact, around the country, where we sometimes it's a motivational call, sometimes it's an informational call, sometimes it's a training call. We try to, like for example, the Sunday calls, the Purge call that we do is very specific. It's very much a training call. But there are other calls where we're hearing stories and we're hearing about how someone, grew their business despite all sorts of difficult circumstances or whatever. And we kind of like on this call to be to try and bring on special guests who are having a lot of success in the business and talking about how they got through their troubles to build their business, and how just through not giving up, they've got themselves to a great position, and at the same time have training going on in there as well. And tonight is very specific in that I do want there to be some particular training going on, which I think you're all going to very much enjoy and appreciate. So what I want to do first of all is bring on our special guest. This chap happens to, we've had a lot of special guests on, but this chap, I would like to say, hopefully he feels the same way, but this guy has become a very good friend of mine. I could count on one hand someone who I've worked and run with in recent years as building towards EC and onward. And this particular guy, we work very closely together in the DFW area with the big trainings that we do, as well as the business presentations. And this guy has become a little bit, he was a little bit of a dark horse to begin with, in spite of his talent, but more recently he's got a little bit. He's become a bit of a shining light, and but the best way to exemplify that was the fact that he won or earned a 5-star trip, but not only earned the 5-star trip, but was number one in his category. No one was even close to him for getting that number one position. So in addition to that, he's a Comma Club. He's in the Comma Club. He's also obviously an executive consultant. My very good friend, executive consultant Doug Parker. Are you there, my friend?
Richard Laidler, can you hear me, sir?
I can hear you perfectly, and that is a wonderful English accent, my friend.
Thank you, sir. I'll tell you what, all those accolades you're throwing out, I was trying to figure out if it was somebody else fixing to get on the call here in a minute. I saw this freaking best training ever. I mean, you're holding me up to some kind of standards I can't possibly get to, but, man, I appreciate the kind words.
Hey, listen, I try to set the bar high so that then you'll aspire to it, because of all the people I know, if I set the bar high, you're one of the guys who's going to jump over it still, no matter how high I set it. So I feel confident, man.
I'm going to jump up high. I may bang my shins on the edge of it, but I promise you I'm going to try.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Well, you've been on this call before, and it's wonderful that you've given us your time. And I know you're super busy with all of the business that's going on around the Texas area for you, and I appreciate you giving us the time again to come on the call. But there were some specific things I wanted to talk to you about. But we've got a lot of people, again, from around the country, and I know many of them are relatively new to our calls and stuff. So I'd love them to kind of just get a little bit of a feel for who you are. Where you're from. I think your accent kind of gives it away a little bit, but just a little bit about, who Doug Parker is and what he's been doing and why he's got an ambit business.
Sure, absolutely. I appreciate that. So, Richard's from far East Texas, and I'm just from regular East Texas. And so I grew up out in East Texas, and, I'm just a regular, hard-working, pretty normal guy. Never been to college a day in my life, but definitely been to the school of hard knocks, and serial entrepreneur, started many businesses, and I've had some ups and downs, and bumped my head on several different things. But I've had a little bit of success in the financial services world, and one of my companies was on the Inc. 500 list, and that's how I was initially introduced to Ambit. But processed through that deal, and when I was receiving the award, it was the year that Ambit was the #1 fastest growing privately held company in America, and thought it'd be cool if I connected with, Jerry Thompson Jr. when I got back in town. We're both CEOs, and ultimately I never really connected the dots. I think I said a little congratulatory note, but that was really the extent of it. And a couple years later, I looked back into it and tried to diversify my businesses and realized I probably wasn't sophisticated enough to actually buy and sell energy on the open market, but I had about 40,000 customers that I could probably, work on converting some of those over to being energy customers. Most of my customers have always had too much month at the end of the money, and so I thought it may be an opportunity. And so looked at the business and jumped in. And as you kind of mentioned, when I first got into business, honestly, I goofed around a lot and a bunch of excuses. And, I've run across several sayings over the years that are, some are kind of cliches and others are just little sayings I picked up or liked. But one of them is that, your excuses only sound good to you. So I won't give you a bunch of them as to why I didn't jump out there and really do a bunch. They're just excuses. And honestly, you can make excuses or you can make money, but you can't make both. So I didn't make a bunch of money because I was making a bunch of excuses. But about 18 months ago, I decided to actually go to work and was a senior consultant, got promoted to executive in about 8 months from that point, and really started grinding and have really just put my head down and not taken no for an answer. And so I've had some pretty good success over the past 7 or 8 months.
I think as well, and usually this is more of a question towards the end of the call, but you and I are both business owners. We've been business owners pretty much our whole life. And like you, I've had, failures and successes and this type of thing. And I think it's interesting that I, like you, I have also really kind of knuckled down to really work on my Ambit business now, to the point of actually selling my restaurants to take out the funds that I could get from that, but more importantly than anything else, to get some time back, because I really can see what's happening with Ambit and what's going to be happening over the next 5-10 years. Almost like I've seen it before. I haven't, but it really feels very visceral to me. Now, you as a business owner will obviously be all about vision and being able to see things in the future. Is that part of the reason why you kind of have really knuckled down, or was it just that you kind of just started to notice Ambit and thought, well, I really should do something with that?
Well, the residual income is the biggest thing that I see, and the leverage. The building a team and then allowing it to expand and continue to get paid, for unlimited levels as you get promoted. And so as you get promoted, it's very important to get promoted to regional consultant because you get a 55% raise, and senior another $80 or 80% more than the original, $100. And then when you get to executive, some massive things happen because you get paid another $80, and at that point you're getting paid about 90% of the compensation that Ambit pays out. But more important than that, for most people, it takes quite a while to get promoted to executive. So what happens is you start building this team that gets deeper and wider, and you get these overrides for an extraordinarily long time. And so these little $80 add up over time. And so I actually, had started interviewing and talking to a lot of the top leaders within Ambit and picking their brains, and it really just exposed me more to the opportunity. And I'm talking to Steve Thompson, and he's talking about how, really, I kind of was like a little bit of an off-the-record question. I'm like, hey, man, really, man, I'm a grinder. Man, I work. Honestly, I typically work harder than anybody that I know, and I don't mind working. But, man, am I too late to the party? This is probably 2 years ago, and I'm like, I know you started, 10 years ago or 8 years at the time, but man, am I too late to the party? Because, I can make some money, but I can make some money doing a whole lot of things. And he goes, Doug, I'm telling you, we were too early to the party. He goes, most of the people that started in the beginning, they just didn't stick it out. If they had, they'd be in the same position I am. He goes, the people that want to get on the ground floor, they need to get on in the next, 1 to 2 to 3 years. Well, you fast forward, now is the next 1 to 2 to 3 years. That's right now. And things like this Japanese opportunity. There's just stuff happening literally like right now, this minute, no baloney aside. There's been things with the .jp sites that have been up and down today. This is the first time I've even told anybody else, and I'm doing it in a public environment. But there's things that are happening right now, okay? I saw my site today in Japanese, man. I'm reading it. Not really. I'm looking at it, wondering what the heck it says. But there's a little button in the top right-hand corner that's in Japanese. You click on it, and then it turns into English, just like it does Espanol on the other page. And so I'm just excited, and I see a guy like Brian McClure get up, and if you're local anywhere within 4 or 5 hours driving distance to DFW, you better be at the business presentation tomorrow night, because it'll be the last one you get to see with Brian McClure in the next probably 2 years. And I saw Brian a while back do one where he gets up and he talks about, hey, I can't speak for you or how much you're going to make. All I can do is tell you about me and how much I've made. And he says, on a monthly basis, I'm getting paid hundreds upon hundreds of thousands upon hundreds of thousands upon hundreds of thousands upon hundreds of thousands upon $100,000 a month. And I added up the hundreds of thousands that he said, okay? And he says, and in my opinion only, I'm going to get to the point at some point in the near future where I'm going to make $1 million in a month. And I thought to myself, as talented as the guy is, what the guy has on me is time. And it's what he's got on everybody else. All you got to do is put your head down, and we can get in the same boat he can. Maybe it's not hundreds upon hundreds upon hundreds or $1 million a month, but maybe it's tens upon tens upon tens of thousands. And I can tell you that in the last 7 months, I've been grinding it out and gotten to the point where it's tens upon tens of thousands of dollars a month. It ain't hundreds upon hundreds, but I'm telling you, it's working. It's just putting my head down. So when it comes to vision, I'm a show me kind of guy. I can have the vision, I can cast the vision, and then I can walk through a brick wall to get there. But whenever you show me the money, that's when it becomes real. And I'm telling you, in the past 7 months, it has been no baloney. It's been for real, and it ain't going to nothing but get better.
It's interesting because obviously when you first started the business and you had your yellow and green pin for way too long, you're sitting back there. I remember those days as well when you're making, a few $100 a month, and then you have a good week and maybe you'll get $1,000 for that week or whatever it is. And now here we are as ECs, and there's just through pure time, as you quite rightly said. Maybe there's some people may have a little bit of talent or whatever it is, but all it has been is actually engaging and now spending a little bit more time, and those hundreds and 1,000 is now thousands and tens of thousands a month. Did you ever foresee that when you first looked at Ambit?
Well, I did, and I never try to come across anything, from an arrogant standpoint or anything else, but I've had an opportunity to make some pretty significant money over the years, and so I saw it from the beginning, and a lot of people talk about, they see the $11,000 slide or the $57,000 slide, and they can't ever even wrap their head around it. I'd had the fortune to have made that kind of money before, and so in my opinion, if the opportunity wasn't there, I wouldn't have even looked at it. But I had to look at it to see how realistic was it really, and that's why I started dabbling with it. But the residual nature of it was really what got me excited, because I figured even if I dillied around with it for a little while, for a couple of years, and got to the point where I was making $1,000 a month or something residual, and I just took my foot off the accelerator. That's it. $1,000 a month is the equivalent of having $200,000 in the bank at 6%. So it'd be like me taking $200,000 of my money that I had somewhere else, putting it in the bank and drawing 6%, except for I don't have to take my $200,000 out of the bank. I can just, have that coming in residually. So that was just another opportunity of another stream of income that, even though it wouldn't be crazy money, it could be pretty good, consistent money, and I could use it to pay for my kids' college and a couple things like that. Well, it went from literally from an average of $1,000 a month for the first 2 years to almost 5 times that in the last 7 months. So I mean, it's just applying the pressure and getting on it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, you're talking about, when we talk about, we've both you and I have made pretty good money in the past. I'm not saying that to be arrogant because I've also lost a lot of money in the past. But
right.
The thing is, I've always worked for every penny I've made. Even when I had a company and I had one degree of leverage through my employees, the sort of money that we're making right now is for not doing the work. Now, we're still going to work, but if we stop today, that money would still be coming in, and that, I think, is the big difference from that perspective. And I'm super excited. And again, for those of people who are listening on the call, I know we've got some people on the call who maybe have not owned a business before, and are hearing Doug talk about 5 times that sort of number, and I've made that sort of number before and this type of thing. There are a lot of people where on the call right now, or $100 or $200 or $300 makes all the difference in the world by getting that money each month, because it means that they can meet their bills and this type of thing. And that's what's great about this business, is it can fit whatever size shoe you've got, it'll fit. Whether you need an extra couple of hundred or whatever it is, or whether you want tens of thousands a month. I know I've set some pretty lofty goals, and it is tens of thousands a month before I get to my first. And then once I've done that, I'll probably want 6 figures a month, just because we can. And that's what's so great about this. But, Doug, let's switch gears a little bit, if you don't mind. I'd like to kind of, as I was saying at the beginning of the call, I'd like to kind of intermingle a little bit of some storytelling and stuff like you've just been doing, and people feeling excited about the opportunity with Ambit, especially with our international expansion. But let's get into a little bit of nitty-gritty. Something I've been very impressed with what you've been able to do, especially when you had the same reaction to this type of training as I did when we first looked at it, which was the home meeting. I was a little uncomfortable with doing home meetings for way too many years, because I've always been a businessman, and the thought of doing business and bringing people into my home was kind of weird and awkward to me, and I had to get over myself about that. But you also did the same thing, but you've really taken it into the stratosphere. Could you just kind of, first of all, kind of just give us a 30,000-foot view of your view on home meetings, and then once we've done that, let's kind of go on the 10-foot view and see actually what you do for a home meeting. So could you kind of give us an overview of your thoughts about the home meeting in an Ambit business?
Yeah, so I'll tell you 2 things. First of all, really, guys, always listen to your upline. I was hard-headed as all get out, and I don't know if Richard's hard-headed or not. That's a rhetorical statement. But I know that over the years, Richard and Mary Almuedo, Jared Abshire, they were telling me, hey, do this, don't do this, don't do that. And I'm like, I don't even listen to y'all. I mean, I didn't say it out loud, but that's what I was saying, because my actions were what I was doing. And I was like, man, I got an Inc. 500 company. I done $65 million in business. I know how to do this. I can sell, blah, 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 whatever. Well, bottom line is it probably cost me a couple $100,000 doing it my way. And so through that process, I couldn't figure out why I wasn't being more successful than I was being with the success I was having. I went on a streak one time and signed up 50 people in 50 days, and none of them did nothing. So obviously that's not effective. So anyway, Richard Almuedo told me one time, your business is going to be directly in proportion to the number of times you show the plan, but also the number of living rooms and kitchen the tables that you're at in the next year. And I'm like, man, I don't know about all that, man. I got a meeting in McKinney. I bring them into my big building, and just for giggles, I thought, man, I'm going to do a couple of these little meetings out in East Texas. I sponsored somebody in my EC code, and it actually blew my mind away this morning, because I looked in my EC code, just who has come into my EC code since Ambition, okay, in 7 months, and I got 189 consultants in my EC code, okay?
Amazing.
In 7 months. And about 100 of those, just under 100 of those, are from East Texas. And so 30,000-foot view, I just started, I'm going to go out there and do a couple of these. I'm sitting outside of a church right now in Sherman, Texas, that I just did a home meeting for one of the pastors and a couple of their members, okay? Last night I did a meeting out in Canton. And so, I mean, I'm just traveling around like crazy, but it's like every time I show up somewhere, one or two or three consultants sign up. And it's just a more intimate setting, kind of as we drill it down to the more 10-foot view. I mean, it's really just not as overwhelming where you show up in a room with 30 to 100 strangers, and it's, you know, this high energy, people clapping loud, not that it's over the top ever, a bunch of hype, but it's not that. It's intimate. It's somebody's house. It's a comfortable environment with a few friends, and, you know, you can kind of be real with people, and you can pull back the onion, the layers a little bit more and talk a little bit more about your personal story. You can talk a little bit more about their personal story, about what they really got going on in life, and about their why, and how this can really help them accomplish their why, and how that, you know, a few $100s a month can really make a difference for them. You know, a lot of people, we show them, you know, 10,000 or 50,000 or whatever, and it's like, oh yeah, that changed anybody's life. But really, I mean, $300 or $400, $500 a month can make a significant difference for almost everybody. And when you can really show it to them on that real intimate setting, it makes a huge difference. And then you can turn around, if for whatever reason they haven't been able to fully wrap their head around it on the first view of it, you can invite them to the hotel meeting and say, why don't you do this? I know you got some questions. Why don't you come see some other people that are being successful with the business? You know, we got a meeting tomorrow night on Thursday here in Dallas or whatever the case is, and you can show it to them on a little bit larger level. And sometimes things just take time, okay? They're not the one-call super close. It's you got to plant the seed. You got to wait for the sun to shine on a little bit. It's got to get some water. It's got to get some fertilizer. It sprouts up, and then eventually you reap the harvest. That's how the business is designed to work, is that you do a one-on-one presentation, maybe show them the videos, maybe go to their house and do a quick little home meeting, and then maybe you got to bring them to a third showing of it to eventually let it kind of sink through and let them show that it's real, because some people just don't believe it the first time they see it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, and I think the thing as well about the home meetings is they're just so duplicatable. I think, you know, it's just something that anybody can do. Well, my experience of home meetings, when I first get to a home meeting, it's always just a little tiny bit weird in that it's, you know, it's some people and there's a group of people getting in the lounge and this type of thing. And I think that's just me. I think most people are perfectly comfortable with that. But even my negativity at the very, and I'm using that word very lightly, even that kind of slightly uncomfortable feeling, let's put it that way, disappears really quickly, and you start getting into the video and this type of thing, but it is way contrasted. I mean, you know as well as I do, I helped you with that one down in East Texas as well. At the end of the meeting, there's a real kind of almost small party type atmosphere. Everybody's really warmed up. There's a lot of really friendly conversation. There's not too many people. There's probably a little bit of drink and a little bit of snacks and this type of thing. It's a really It kind of sections off into a couple of groups of 3 people or a group of 4 or 5 or whatever. It's such a great environment for people to get the really good warm and fuzzies about the business, don't you think?
Absolutely. You know, and you mentioned that one out in East Texas you went to with me. I mean, the great thing about home meetings is, I mean, you know, we got for real gun-toting, you know, on their hip, you know, constables and sheriffs, I mean, showing up. And, I mean, it was like the Wild Wild West, but it's where they're comfortable. So it's one less thing that they've got to overcome to make them feel comfortable. And, guys, the difference between, you know, massive success and massive failure is a very fine line. And so you want to set yourself up for as much success as possible. And most people feel a lot more comfortable at their friend's house than they do at a hotel.
And you were so right. I mean, you're talking about gun toting. It was very strange as an Englishman, where we'll, if you upset us in England, we'll knock you over the head with a baton, or as you would say, a baton. You know, we've got a stick that helps us, and so here I am, and I go into this lounge, and literally These guys have got the camo gear on. They've got the big boots on. They've got a gun on their hip in a holster or tucked in the back of their pants. I mean, there wasn't a guy in there. The only guy without the gun were you and me. And I'm sure you probably had one hidden in your boots somewhere. It was a really strange scenario for me. But you're right. It's where they were comfortable. And those guys may not have been comfortable in a hotel meeting in Dallas. First time round, for sure.
I don't know that. I don't know they would be comfortable not carrying their guns because that's how they roll.
Right. Exactly. All right. Well, let's move on a little bit more. So what's kind of like the exact process that you go through? I'm opening the side door here. I've just got Frank Schmaling turned up at the office, and he's trying to get me to let him into the office. So let's kind of go into
hello, Frank.
When he comes in, I'll have him come and say hi to everyone. What's your process? What's the cycle of action? So there you are. I mean, I know you're still recruiting. I know you're still doing what you're doing, but obviously you're helping your team and helping them build and this type of thing. We kind of touched on it, and you say, well, you show them the home meeting or do a one-on-one, and then we do a business presentation. When you're running your business, when you're obviously having all of this success, I'm looking for Frank's car. He looks like he's driven off. What is your process? What's your cycle of action, your process to get someone from they've never even heard about it, they've never even been invited by you, all the way through to someone being able to make a decision? And I'm talking about really from the way you're building in East Texas down there, because I want this to kind of have a little bit of a the home meeting centric approach.
Sure. So what I would say is, number one, so let's say that, well, I'll give you two examples. So I literally invited my stepdad to get into the business 2.5 years ago. And he said no, so I signed my mom up when he didn't pay attention. Then he got all bent out of shape about it and all this, that, and other. Well, that's fine. So I was like, hey, if you don't want to make money, man, cancel it out. Have a nice day. No worries. So that's what we did. Well, then about, I don't know, whenever it was, a week before or a week after Ambition, I think it was a week after Ambition, he's like, hey, man, how's that electricity deal working out? I was like, working out great. Why? He said, well, I mean, I fell off a ladder. I hurt my back. He was a manual labor kind of guy. He was a painter, commercial painter. Mm-hmm. And he's like, man, I'm seriously like in bad shape. I may have to do something. I just use my mouse instead of my body. So I was like, okay. So I got him. He was all in all of a sudden now. He's good to go. He fast-tracked to RC, fast-tracked to SC. But he had a guy named Billy. And Billy, he wanted me to talk to Billy. So I called Billy, and I was like, hey, Billy, want to, visit with you? He left him a message. He texted me back. I texted him back, and then he's like, we're going to watch the video with me. And as soon as he saw it was electricity, he texted back and goes, hey, man, I'm not interested. I've seen this kind of stuff before. I've known this guy for 35 years. I said, Billy, you don't even know what you're saying no to. He didn't even respond to me. No text. I call him, crickets, nothing. So I'm like, this is crazy. So then, but I still try to show it to him. I still try to invite him. Well, now this is not the exact home scenario, but Dean is my stepdad. Dean says, hey, man, I'm going down to coach's meeting in Tyler. So Dean goes, hey, I'm going to go there tonight. He goes, Billy's coming with me. I go, why is Billy coming? He wouldn't even look. He wouldn't even call me back. So I get to the meeting. Billy watches the deal, watches the presentation. We get to the end of it, and Billy says, I sat down beside Billy, and I asked him 4 questions. And I'm telling you, these have revolutionized my world. The first question is, I said to Billy, what was your favorite part? And Billy's like, man, I really like that residual income. And he's straight-faced. I'm like, I think he's pulling my leg. And I said, okay, well, I mean, I like that too. And I said, what else did you like? He said, man, I really like the ability to be able to retire. He goes, because, man, I've been doing this manual labor for so long, man, because he's a painter too. He goes, man, I think I really need to start looking at that. I'm climbing these towers and blah, blah, blah. I said, okay. I said, do you see how it makes sense? He said, absolutely. I said, does that mean you're ready to get started? He said, yes. Straight face the whole time. So I still think he's putting me together. So I don't say nothing else. I just reached down and grabbed my laptop. I said, great, I got to get a little bit of information. We'll get you started. So I pull out my laptop. I shut my mouth. I start signing him up. He pulls out his credit card. He signs up. He's good to go. Once I get his seat number, then I start asking some questions. I said, Billy, what the heck changed for you from you not even calling me back to saying yes? He goes, man, I showed up and I saw that it was real, man. I really get it, man. I really get it. And that just goes to show you it takes somebody out of doubt. And, Brian McClure says all the time, action will take you out of doubt and doubt will take you out of action. Well, Dean started doing some action, and he started getting some paychecks. And he kept sharing with Billy, hey, man, this thing's working for me, man. It's working for me. Because it was about 30 to 60 days before he came to that meeting. But then he saw it was real, and Dean stayed in touch with him and followed up with him. And before you know it, he came. He goes, oh, man, I'll come check it out. He came to check it out with no intention of signing up. But when he saw that it was real, there was a guy in East Texas that was his daughter's basketball coach at the school she lived at and went to school at. He realized, you know what, man, this is real. This dude's made $1 million in this business. I can do this if he's doing it. And he fast-tracked to RC as well, and is now on his way to RC. So, I mean, it's those guys are the ones that are really helping to facilitate all the meetings, the home meetings out in East Texas. But we're supplementing the home meetings with the BPs and going and supporting the Tyler meeting. I mean, I talked to Coach today on the phone. We're just like Richard, and I appreciate the compliments earlier. We have been running together and building some camaraderie. And you don't get paid nothing off of what I do, and nor do I off of you. But we're working together because we're all on Team Ambit. Same thing with Coach. Coach out in East Texas, we talked today for 45 minutes because we're building teams together out in East Texas, and it's all about teamwork and making the dream work. So, but yeah, it's just feeding off of it and getting involved and getting engaged.
So what you're talking about here, so there's a couple of points on that. Is first of all, I find, and I kind of ranted on this the last week on the team call, is that it's, for a lot of people, the knee-jerk reaction or the immediate reaction to anything new is suspicion. And that just is the way it is. And sometimes you've got to be patient with it. Sometimes you've got to be really gentle with it, and that's why the takeaway is so good. Listen, I know you're not, Doug, I know you're not going to do this, but I'd love you to take a look at this because, you've had a lot of experience in the business, and the takeaway really helps remove a lot of that suspicion. But it's just kind of the path of the course, and I think what we've learned from that is you just kind of just stick at it and you go with it, and they'll join or they won't. But it doesn't matter either way. You're going. Ambit's still going to be successful. You're still going to be successful, and people will join or they won't. But I think the thing, what I was kind of trying to nail down there, and I think what you summed up was what your process is, especially down, from the home meeting perspective, is you'll make the invite, you'll make a call, you'll either make a proactive call, or you'll react to someone who's nearby and say, well, take a look at what we're doing, and then you'll direct them to a home meeting, right? And then depending on their reaction at the home meeting, then you'll take them to a business presentation for a second look. Is that correct?
That's correct. And I want to tidy up one part of that because I didn't get into it. I got another thing, and anybody that wants to come next Tuesday night is invited to come, okay? But you got to bring a guest. You can't come without a guest. But on this coming Tuesday night in Fairview, I'm doing a home meeting, and one of my guys at Fast Track to RC and SC as well, that is a guy that's in the car business, and he probably makes $25-30 grand a month as a finance manager, real successful. But he just bought $1 million house in Fairview, okay? Mm-hmm. And he's bringing people over, and part of it is that they get to see people like them that are being successful. Now, in this guy's case, they get to see a guy that is really super successful, and they're thinking, why is this successful guy doing this? There's a reason why he's doing it. People that have $1 million houses, they don't do stuff screwing around, And so there's different perspectives and different scenarios. But what you got to have is confidence. You got to go into it with confidence. And you talked about whether you get a yes or you get a no, blah, blah, blah. Well, you're a business guy and you're used to getting no's. One of the biggest problems that consultants have, and whether they're new or experienced consultants, is they get thin-skinned. They get scared, they get told no, and then they get frustrated. And it don't matter. I don't care if they tell me yes, no, maybe. It don't matter. I just keep showing the plan. Show the plan, show the plan, show the plan, show the plan, show the plan. If they tell me no, that means I'm that much closer to the next yes. Hey, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink it. I can't help it if they don't see it. I can't help it. I do my best to be persuasive and explain it to them, but if they don't get it, either I did a bad job presenting it or they're just not very smart. And if they're not very smart, I don't want them on my team anyway.
And that's interesting. So there's a question in that. If there's a lot of people on the call that maybe don't have the swagger that you do, that confidence. How does someone who is who's brand new in the business and they're a little nervous and they're worried about talking to their family and friends, who we all know the family and friends are pretty much the hardest people to talk to about this, because they know you as the carpenter or the office manager. They don't know you as anything special. How does someone get that posture in the early days? They're an MC, they're in the business, and they've got to have a little bit of swagger to invite someone to take a look. I mean, is it the type of invite you do, or the type of the process in the invite that you do? How do you muster up that posture if you don't naturally have posture?
Well, there's a couple things. First of all, you got to fake it till you make it. Nobody wants to join a losing team, okay? Everybody wants to be a winner. So you got to act as if. I mean, you really do act as if you're already successful. I mean, hey, and then you got to borrow somebody else's story. I'm not $1 million income earner yet, but I guarantee you I talk about Richard and Marianne Waito all the time because they're making it happen, and they've got time on their hands. I borrow Brian's story. So you got to borrow other people's story until you get your own. And you know, you always want to tell the truth. You never want to embellish, and never sacrifice integrity for growth. None of those things. But borrow someone else's story. Talk about how you were at a meeting the other day with a guy that's knocking it out of the park and doing X, Y, Z. Whoever, or a gal that's doing it, or whatever the case may be. So those are the kind of things that I think you got to do. And then the other thing is that perfect practice makes perfect. A lot of people talk about how practice makes perfect. And frankly, the reality is that practice makes perfect. So, if you're not practicing it perfectly, then you could be practicing the wrong stuff. And if you're practicing the wrong way, you're going to get coaching. You got to do things like the purge call. You got to get, hey, critique me on this. Record your call, and then have somebody listen to it. Listen to it yourself. Anytime you listen to yourself on a call, you go back and listen, you go, oh, my gosh, I can't believe I said that. But you got to keep practicing it over and over again and really get it down to where you feel very confident. Say it to yourself in the mirror, and then say it to your spouse. Practice it. Repetition is the mother of learning, over and over and over and over. And you practice. Professionals, amateurs practice till they get it right. Professionals practice till they can't get it wrong, where it's unconsciously competent. They don't even know how they know. It just flows out of their mouth.
Isn't that the truth? I mean, the thing is that, when you first get started, you are going to find a situation where, you're uncomfortable. It's just like learning to ride a bike. You always hear this analogy when you're trying anything new, is you are going to fall off the bike a few times, you're going to skin your knee, but you got to get back up on the bike because it's worth it. When you're a kid, the dream is that you can ride that bike down the pathway and you can do it without, your dad holding the saddle, and that's your dream. But we started our Ambit business to get out of whatever it is. We're out of the debt or out of the job or bring the wife home or, in some cases, save ourselves because we're in so much trouble. And so it's worth skinning your knee a few times, and you are going to skin your knee a few times. But the thing is, more than anything else, I think as well, is you can't say the wrong thing to the right person. If you get someone to look at this video and it's the right person, they're going to love it. They're going to be right in the business. But even if Doug, you and I did the best invite that was out there, and we've been doing this a long time to the wrong person, there's no way they're ever going to join. And so I agree with you 100%. I think it's absolutely right. I couldn't have put it better myself. Well, we're at 9:40, Doug. Let's talk about just real quick. I want to. You mentioned it a little bit earlier, but the business presentation tomorrow night is a real biggie, and I want people to really kind of feel the gravitas of what we're saying about the business presentation tonight. Just explain a little bit about what's happening tomorrow night and why people should be there.
Sure. So this is the kickoff to Power Trip, which is Frankly, it's the last time Power Trip is going to be here in Dallas, from my understanding, for possibly the next 2 years, but maybe, who knows? I mean, it could be a long time till we see it again here. It's going to be an all-star lineup, and I'm sure Brian McClure will likely close down the presentation. And I'm going to tell you guys that it's unbelievable when you hear Brian close down the meeting. I've only heard it a couple times, but it is unbelievable. There's a reason why he's the number one income earner in Ambit, and something like the number 5 income earner in the world in all direct sales companies, no matter if it's a potion, lotion, shake, whatever. He's number 5. It's somewhere in that area. So it'll be an all-star lineup, but there'll be a lot of energy in the room. You'll get to see people that you've never seen present before, and it's kind of the kickoff to everything that we're going to be doing this weekend. So it'll just be a really, like I said, an all-star lineup, and then you'll get to, kind of mingle with some other people. But I would encourage you, get on the phone right now. You still got 30 minutes or an hour. You can call a few folks. And tomorrow morning, your breaks, your lunch break, call some people and let them know, look, there's something coming into town that you may not ever get to see again. And I want you to be part of it. Come support me. Come check it out with me. And, it's amazing how when people see the real, it's one thing talking about somebody making the kind of money Brian's making. It's a whole nother thing seeing some skin on somebody, showing up, and they're like a real person that's really right there in front of you telling you. And so I highly recommend get there, get some guests there, because if somebody's going to sign up, they're going to sign up tomorrow. Okay, I promise you that. It ain't going to get no better than tomorrow in what's going on. And it just gives you some exposure to some other stuff, and then make sure you're participating in Power Trip and things that are going on there. So it's gonna be a great weekend. Okay,
Doug, I've got to backtrack one thing because I just got a question come through, which I've invited people to do. I just want this is a question about the home meeting again, and I apologize for backtracking, but I didn't see the question. This is a question from a regional consultant, Josh Daly, and he's asking the question: how does Doug set up the invite? Or how do you set up or invite for a home meeting? How do you do that, and how is that different from inviting someone to a one-on-one or a business presentation?
Well, so to me, it's all about energy, enthusiasm, and excitement. So it really don't. To me, it's not any different. It's just a different venue. So I did it today. I had a kid that's in my office. He's 19 or 20 years old. He's in Ambit. He's fiddled around a little bit, but he's got a little bit of momentum going now. And I said, hey, are you coming on Tuesday night to John Carlo's house? And he's like, yeah, man, I got on my schedule. I said, hey, is your other guy Yiddy coming? He goes, yes. I go, do you have guests coming? He said, yes. I said, I'm telling you, this is the last time you're going to get to see Mary Almedo, because I got Mary coming to the meeting, okay? So I got $1 million income earner, and he goes, why? I said, because Mary is moving to Japan. I don't know if it's next week or week after next or the week after that, but it is imminent. She is gone. I don't know for how long, but it's a long time. So you need to sign, to get everybody you can there, because you won't get to see her again. And I said, this is at a guy's house, $1 million house, dude. You don't get to go to a house like that very often. So I just got him excited. You got to build excitement and enthusiasm, and it's the takeaway close in a different way. It's trying to give them an opportunity for something that they wouldn't get to experience very often. Same thing I'm talking about Power Trip. Same thing I'm talking about seeing Brian McClure. Same thing about these home meetings. Hey, get some people there, man. You won't get this intimate of a setting very often. So that's what you do. You set it up for whatever the pluses are. There's pluses and minuses on everything, right? So I'm going to present it in the most positive way I possibly can and get them really super excited about it. And the other thing is tell them, hey, if you want, 1 or 2 people to show up, you better invite 4 or 5. That's just how it is. Yeah. People come up with excuses, and some of them are legitimate and some of them aren't, but it really don't matter. So you just got to build in some excuses. So if you want 1 or 2 to show up, invite 4 or 5. And if all 4 or 5 of them show up, God bless you.
Fantastic. That was just beautifully put. And I'll tell you what, for those on the call, I know many of you are used to the Sunday Purge call. What I'll do on Sunday is I'll actually use the change of venue, and we'll create some invites on Sunday that are actually sending people to a home meeting. Let's actually be practical and make it real. So I appreciate that. Thanks very much, Doug. And that was some really, really good information there. All right, so you got to be getting near to home by now. I know you're driving because you've been going through some cold spots. But so we've got the business presentation. We've got Power Trip. We've talked about and touched on that. But obviously, Power Trip is the big event that's happening this weekend, run by our number one income earner. The business presentation is the first taste of it, which is that's why it's going to be a big one tomorrow night, because of all the leaders that are coming into town. They'll be running the show, right? And then Friday's a big day, and then of course Friday night there's an opportunity to have Jerry Thompson sit there and tell you about his vision for the company, as well as to have undoctored questions from anyone in the audience that they want to ask him. Chris Chambers, I believe, is still in Japan, so I'm not sure that he's going to be there on Friday night. And then, of course, all day on Saturday is some of the best trainers in the country coming in to teach people about how they should be running their business. And again, it's one of those things. These big events they're crucial. They're absolutely paramount to your business, and absolutely should be there. So you touched on that, and I just wanted to kind of put a bow on that to just kind of let people know what's going on. But let's just talk about you just quickly again. You're very, very prolific in the DFW area, and I know a lot of people are totally hooked on the trainings that you do on Monday and your Ambitious Radio deal. Why don't you just do a little bit of unadulterated, unashamed self-promotion about what you do in the DFW area and how people can plug into that? And I'll post it up on Facebook as well to make sure that people, if they don't get it all now, I'll make sure it's all up on Facebook so they can find you on your Facebook page or on Ambitious Radio, whatever it is.
Cool. Yeah, thanks so much for that. So a couple of things. Number one is on every Monday morning at 10:30 Central Time, we just do a quick little, anywhere from 5 to 15-minute quick little training, something that has popped into my mind or somebody's asked me a question about, and we do it on Facebook Live. And it's really just designed to be a slightly different venue than the nighttime, call-in. These are great that we're doing, but sometimes people work at night, so sometimes people go to bed early or whatever the case is, and it's just a little different venue there. And if you, have something you'd like to be trained on, just send me a request through Facebook, and we post it on ambitateam.com. So if you just go into Facebook and actually I've even shortened it up where you can just go to ambitateam.com and it automatically forwards over to that Facebook page. So just ambitateam.com and it forwards to the Facebook page. The one thing that I caution everybody on, Richard and I talked about this a lot, if you go to the page like a few seconds early and you're like, I can't see the video, hit the refresh button because it's live. And so it doesn't go live if you're not already on there. So it can be a little bit of a delay. So anyway, just make sure to tune in at 10:30 and then hit the refresh button and it'll pop up for you. And then Ambitious Radio I've got a radio program here in DFW that I do every single Saturday, and we broadcast it live. We've had several guests from all over the world, from Vern Harnish, that was the founder of the Young Entrepreneur Organization, to Bo Burlingham, the editor-at-large of Inc. magazine. So a couple weeks ago, we had Lolly Daskalon, which the Huffington Post recently basically claimed that she was the most one of the most influential, or the most influential woman in the world right now. So some pretty cool stuff there. And then we did a spinoff last year of Ambitious Radio that was called Ambit Interviews Ambitious 50, where we had 50 interviews, and Richard's interview is on there as well. And we just interviewed top leaders and asked them pretty similar questions to all of them about what made their business successful and things to be on the lookout for. And it's evergreen type questions that are not, time sensitive. So it's stuff that you can find, and both of those broadcasts are on iTunes and Stitcher Radio, or you can go to ambitiousradio.com and check them out. So I appreciate the plugging of the selfless plugging of that, sir.
No, it's important. I always, as best I can, I always share that Monday morning training. It's some of the best training that's around, and it's it's what's great about it. It's just a quick bite. It's just a quick, you don't have to sit on the phone for an hour or whatever. It's just a quick 5-15 minutes, but you could get the gem that turns your business around. That Monday morning training, guys, if you can sneak out of the office or whatever you need to do to get on it, I can't recommend it more highly. I'm always on there. I'll type a little text in there and say, hey, Doug, how you doing? And he says, hey, Richard, or he goes, Richard Laidler. He does this little thing, and I always recognize it. So get on those trainings. They're really, really good. The Ambitious Radio, again, just fantastic. And again, all of it's available from the ambit18.com website, which will take you to the Facebook page. And as I say, I'll post that on the EC Riders page as well. Now, I intentionally haven't asked you much about the 5-star trip. You just went on the 5-star trip because Doug's actually going to be the special guest at the team dinner, which is coming up in May, which details will be up and out there put up there by senior consultant Christy Meck, who is running all of the organization for the team dinner now. So if you want to hear all the details and all the juicy details that happened at the 5-star trip, then you definitely need to make sure you come to the team dinner that we're doing right at the very beginning of May. At the moment, it's scheduled for the first Wednesday in May, but that may change to a Monday, but keep your eyes open on the Facebook page for that. We're hopefully going to have national consultant Tien Bui as well, who was also on the 5-star trip with Doug. But I'm hoping to talk Doug into coming along with a few photographs, and there's TVs in the room where we were at, and so we can show some photographs and show some really behind-the-scenes stuff of the 5-star trip, because having been on one myself, guys, you have to be on one of these trips. But that being said, there are, and just as a little bit of a plug for that team dinner, by the way, is last team dinner we had almost 40 people there and a bunch of ECs. EC Sam Miller was there, Lynn Wynn was there, Madhu was there, Pat Ezenak was there, Frank Schmaling was there. So you come to these team dinners and you're very likely to be sat right next to a leader, and you've got, that face-to-face time with those people during that whole dinner. We're really looking to build that. That is not an EC Riders thing specifically. It is the whole of Ambit for the DFW area. It's a great venue. But that being said, Doug, and because I do want to get it back to you, is there are some people on the call who will not be able to get to the team dinner because they're obviously around the country. So why don't you give us just a little taste and a little flavor of just how special that 5-star trip is?
Yeah, I'll make it super quick. The one thing that really, as I kind of reflected back on it after the trip, is, we hear Jerry talk about never let good enough be good enough. And that's one thing to say, when you're talking about your customer service or your interaction from a professional standpoint. But that so applies to these 5-star trips as well. I've never been on one before. And I used to be a kind of guy that's like, man, I don't care nothing about all the pomp and circumstances. Give me the money. You know what I mean? I'll do what I want to do with my money. But I will tell you that I'm starting to get, spoiled after the EC fly-in and then the 5-star trip, because it is unbelievable. There's somewhere between good enough and overboard. And I think some of the things that they did for us was overboard, to be honest with you. I mean, it's some of it's ridiculous, and I just know what it cost, and I say I know what it cost. I added it up in my head, approximately, and it's, ridiculous. But they spared no expense, and it was just one little thing I'll tell you. I'm not the kind of guy that's ever going to ask for anything. So, I'm at the counter. I played golf with Jerry one day, and after we get done playing golf, I was like, I'm going to get me a little hat from the pro shop. I just went up there to get it, and I was paying for it. And then Daryl pulls it out of my hand, Daryl Starkweather, and says, put this on our tab. I'm like, no, dude, no. He's like, no, it's going on the tab. And I'm like, man, I'm not asking you to buy me a hat. I'm just buying a hat because I wanted a hat. And he's like, no. And it's little things like that I could have easily, I was planning on paying for it. They wouldn't let me pay for it. And it's never letting good enough be good enough. So that they apply that on when they're spending money on us to take care of us. Make sure to always consider that whenever you're taking care of your customers or your downline consultants or, corporate. Brian talks about all the time that you got to protect the golden goose. Make sure you're protecting the golden goose, guys, because this is the company we work with, and that they provide for us, and they don't let good enough be good enough for us. So don't let good enough be good enough, for the customers or for anybody that's part of this organization.
And is it? I know some people on the call will be thinking this is so far out of my reach. Doug's been this, Doug's been that, and blah blah blah. But I know there are some very, very, very ordinary people on that trip. Is there anybody on this call who you think can't make it, Doug?
Definitely not. I'll put it to you like this. I never even paid attention to points because it wasn't that I think I could get there. I just didn't pay attention to them. It wasn't on my radar for some dumb reason. I just didn't think about it. And Jared called me after Ambition. He's like, "Hey, bro, do you know where you're at on the 5-star?" He goes, "Have you looked at your 5-star points?" I go, "No, I ain't never looked at them ever." He goes, "Look at them." I go, "Why?" He goes, "Just look at them." I said, "Why?" He goes, "Dude, you are number 2. I said, "Not for long. Now that I know I'm number 2, I'm going to be number 1. So, but the bottom line is you just got to, really what gets measured gets improved. And as soon as I saw I was number 2, I thought, no, I want to be number 1. And I pushed for it. And I look at that stuff every single day, and it burns my skillet Milton Burt, I love that guy. Milton Burt, so I'm in a whole different category now with ECs that have been ECs for, they got a 2-year head start on me. And so I got my wish. I got promoted. Now I'm competing in a group of a whole bunch of different kind of people that are really slaying it. And so, I started out in 5th place, and then I crept up to 4th, and then 3rd, and then 2nd, and then I got up to number 1. I went to bed, and I woke up the next morning. I was in 2nd place. And I texted Milton Burt. I said, "Bro, slow down, man. Let me enjoy it for more than a couple hours." I said, "No, I'm just kidding you, man. Keep on slaying it." I said, we're going to make it happen. Now, I'm currently in 3rd place, but they take the top 4 in that EC category. But the bottom line is that once you start competing for it, then the bottom line is no matter, as long as you're competing, that means you're making a bunch of money. And so
Exactly.
The rest of it's just gravy. So you look at your 5-star points, start competing. If you're an RC, get to SC so you can compete. That should be one of the number 1 things. If you're an SC, try to get in the competition. The top 10 people get to go. So, anybody can really legitimately get promoted to SC. You really can. And then once you're competing at SC, then you just got to be in the top 10. So you can make it happen. I highly encourage you to do it. I know we're creeping up on 10 o'clock, so 11 o'clock on the East Coast. So thank you for giving us some time now. This has been great information that Richard has been throwing up there. And I love being on the call with him. He always asks great questions.
Awesome. Well, I really appreciate your time. Again, I'm conscious of the creeping up on the hour. But when the call's this good, I don't let it go. And people are not dropping off. Everyone who started on the call is still on the call. So you're obviously saying something right, Doug. Thank you so much for giving us an hour of your time. I know you got to be exhausted having just come out of a home meeting, and obviously you're driving home and stuff. So thank you so much, my friend. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome, man. You guys have a fantastic night. Appreciate the opportunity to jump on. And thanks for all you're doing in DFW, all the camaraderie, all the team building. That you and I have been talking about this for 2 years, and it's all coming together. All the events, the next training, we're already planning it right now. We got a very, very special speaker that's coming down, is all I'm going to tell you. He's coming down from somewhere, and it is going to be knocking out of the park. It looks like it's going to be in June, and so mark your calendars for sometime in June. It's going to be big, and we're gonna do an even bigger and even better training that everybody in DFW. It's the Global DFW Training Center that we're going to do it at. I don't know where that's at yet, but we'll let you know when we notify everybody.
Wonderful. Well, yeah, we'll keep your eye on all the poignant Facebook pages to get that information, and as soon as the date's released, we'll make sure that it goes up on all the relevant sites. Again, thank you very much, Doug. I really appreciate it. Go home, get some sleep, go kiss that lovely wife of yours, and I'll speak to you soon.
All right, brother. See you, man.
All right, bud. All right, okay. Well, I'm just going to round the call up, guys. Thank you for staying up. I really appreciate it. Got one little bit of information. We talked about the team dinner and the camaraderie that was talking about. If you want to make sure you get a personalized Evite from us, or you want someone from your team to get invited to the team dinner, make sure you email your email address. So email your email address to senior consultant Christy Meck. Her email address is lonestarchristy@gmail.com, and I'll spell that out for you. It is LOAN, as in Lone Star Christy, KRISTI, not C or not CH, at gmail.com. So lonestarchristy@gmail.com, and we'll make sure that we get an invite out to you. Other than that, I'll see you guys all on the Sunday Purge call, which is still growing in numbers. We're ever closer to my target numbers. Thank you so much. Lone Star Christy, yes. My apologies. I've spelt it wrong. LONE. I'm so not Texan. I am so not Texan. I've just realized what an idiot I've made of myself. Lone Star, as in LONESTAR. Of course, all of you Americans know what it should have been. Oh my God, how embarrassing. LONESTARKRISTI. Lone Star Christy @gmail.com. Thank you for not making fun of me for being English and not knowing my Lone Star geography that I should know. All right, guys, thank you so much for getting on the call again. I'll see you guys all on the Purge call, and we'll be on for another great call with a great guest on the team call next week. Guys, have a great night. Have a great Ambit business. Always keep those coachable ears open, because you never know where that next bit of information is going to be to help you out. Guys, have a great evening. I'm going to turn the mute off so you can say thank you to Doug, and I will see you all very, very soon. I'm turning it off right now.
Thank you, Doug.
Thanks, Doug. You did an awesome job. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Doug. That was a wonderful call. Thank you so much.
Thanks.